But I highly recommend, if you're consuming any kind of information from social media or news sites and things like that, most of those places will have RSS feeds. So for example, you may need to stay updated on information from specific government ministries. Is that fair to say? Do people need that kind of, or want that kind of information? Every ministry, every department, and even most municipalities have RSS feeds, and they have them either across the government or broken down by those departments that you can get. So you can go onto the Ontario government site and you can kind of do a quick walkthrough and say, I want feeds from this department, this department, this department, and it'll aggregate those and feed them into your RSS feeder, so you don't have to keep going back to the site to see what's new. Now, it's never completely perfect, and we'll get to other tools to help you make sure you get a little deeper, because government sites send out RSS feeds for their news, but not updates to sections of their website like forms and things like that, which you may well need to know about. So email is still a really important way for you to be able to get information. And what's neat is that you can actually get RSS feeds through email if the person who created it gives that access to you. And what I mean by that is sometimes when you see that little orange RSS indicator, you'll see something that says subscribe by email, or you'll see a little email icon. And what the person there has done is basically said, well, you can get updated by RSS or you can get updated by email. And they typically use a site like FeedBurner or another analytics website. And what it does is it actually allows you to subscribe, and you get a daily digest of what's been updated on that site that day. So if 3 messages were posted, you get 3 messages at the end of the beginning of the day. They can actually define it from that website. And then you can read them in your email at your leisure. No update that day, no email. So it's another great way, if email is your important tool, that you can get that information. And what's nice about that around the filtering is that it comes with the same, it comes from the same address, so you can filter that out of your inbox if you want to into like your unalerts folder or something like that. Again, the technology helps you to stay on top of it, but also to not get overloaded by it. So RSS to email can be really important if you're predominantly using email as a way to get your information and still find it useful. So look for that kind of stuff. Obviously, email subscriptions like newsletters and things like that still exist. A lot of sites will send out a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly newsletter. That's generally what you would call like a curated or an edited newsletter. They're telling you what the important things of the month are that you should know about. And that's another great way. So you have levels, right, of how often you want to get information from the sites that are important to you, and you can update that. Same thing with the government sites. Ontario government, when you go into that RSS, you can also subscribe to a daily email alert from the Ontario government based on specific either keywords or government ministries and things like that. And it allows you to consume it in the way that you want to, basically. A site like Watch That Page is becoming less important, but I just want to put it up there because it is a really interesting way for you to monitor individual web pages and get notified by email. I use this still frequently because I monitor, for example, Citizenship and Immigration Canada. They have an RSS feed, they have email alerts, but they're based on their news releases, which are generally about, look how wonderful we are, look at the money we've just spent, and look at the, what the minister is doing today. And that's still useful information to know. But more importantly is, has the sponsorship, the inland sponsorship form for, common law spouses changed? Because if it has, that has implications for us using the right form in our work. And Watch That Page allows me to say, anytime this page, and it's literally, it's not a website, it's the page, the deep page has changed, send me an email notification. And what it also does, which is kind of nice, it actually sends you the text that changed on that page. So this has been a really good way for me to stay updated with pages and sites that don't have RSS feeds or other ways of notifying me. So it's a nice way to get a workaround for those sites that still exist, and there still are some that don't actually have update or subscription services. Now, what's neat as well is that you can actually get your Google alerts. So back here when we were looking at RSS, in the alerts field here, a lot of the stuff that I get is kind of a shotgun based on keyword searches. So you'll see, for example, Google Alerts, immigration or immigrants in brackets Canada. Right? That's what it says in the Google alert right there. And what that is I've gone to Google Alerts and done a search for particular words. And once I get the kind of results that I think are useful, I can set that into a particular kind of alert. And I can subscribe to that by RSS, or I can subscribe to that by email. Let's see if it's here. So basically, Google Alerts, another good reason why you want to have a Google account, is you can do a search for, on the web, the entire everything for just news, for just blogs, for just groups, and I think just videos, and get results anytime something is updated, right? So this is a way for me to not have to subscribe to, say, every major news outlet to get everything that they send out, but to know if they've written something about immigration or immigrants or whatever the case may be for what we're looking at. So Google Alerts are a really important way for you to use the keyword search power of Google in order to drive information to you. So what that means is basically you go to Google, you do a search, Google News, let's take it, because maybe you're looking to find out what's happening in the news around a particular program that you've launched. You do the keyword search terms, you refine those terms until you get the search results that you want that don't have a lot of extraneous kinds of things. I'll give you a good example. Matrice, our foundation chair, is named Alan Broadbent, and I do alerts to find out if anyone's saying anything about him or if he's written something that we didn't know about that comes in. Well, there's also a jazz musician named Alan Broadbent, and that's garbage overload. That's noise that comes in if I just do a keyword search on Alan Broadbent. But I can filter out words like jazz and music and things like that. And if you aren't a power user of Google in that way, it's really useful to figure that out. If you go into the advanced search in Google, you can say, give me a search with these words, but not these words. And that will give you a search result that actually filters some of that information down a bit. So now the Alan Broadbent stuff that I get is only him, or variations of anyone else with his name who isn't a jazz musician. And that is a tremendous way to cut down on that garbage or noise overload, and it's really important. So using the tool intelligently is really important. The nice thing about Google Alerts is that you can refine it. You can change your alert. If the stuff you're getting is not what you want, you can unsubscribe from that alert, create a new one, refine it. But the easiest way is to get it right up front, in my experience, is to figure out the keywords. For example, that's why that one is immigrants or immigrant in brackets, because Google doesn't like certain truncation in its search terms, so you use its logic really well, basically, and it'll give you the search results you want. But Google Alerts are an essential, important way to basically hit a wide range of issues or topics and get the information coming back to you. And you can get those alerts either by email or by RSS. And what you see here is how often, which is really useful if you're doing it by email. You can get an email every time something's mentioned, so as it comes. Or you can get, again, basically an aggregate of one email a day with all of the results based on the search terms that you've asked it to look for. So Google Alerts is one of your more powerful tools, I would say. What's nice about Twitter is if you don't want to be on it, you don't have to be on it to know what's happening, okay? You can still follow information and useful people or resources or trends on Twitter in two ways. One is by doing a search. So for example, I'm not going to go in every morning and do a search for the term Immigrants Canada in Twitter, but I'm curious to know what people are talking about, because it can be important for the work that we're doing. So I do a search on Twitter. It's got a really good search tool, and then you'll see in the top right corner, there's that little orange thing again, and it says feed for this query. I can subscribe to an RSS feed of those search terms so that anytime something comes back where someone has mentioned the words immigrants in Canada, and you can actually go into the advanced search and even say restrict it to a geographic area, like give me search results that are within 100 kilometers of my location, because the computer knows where you are. It's kind of scary, but it's true. But it can be really useful in this case. I don't care what they're saying in Arizona. I want to know what someone in Toronto, because that's where our constituency is, saying about immigrants in Canada. And I can then get a feed. I can see the results that I'm getting. I can take a quick look at this search page and say, yep, that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for. Now I'm going to subscribe to this. What's nice is if you're not using RSS, there's a great website called TweetBeep, which allows you to do the exact same thing, but get the updates by email. So you can similarly come in here, and you can see this is the advanced search. So alert, immigrants, immigration, newcomers. I can name the place. So I'm 100 kilometers from Toronto. And this is interesting. If you see at the bottom there, it says attitudes. Sentiment analysis is something that social media sites are not perfect at, but they're trying to get there, which is basically, is the person saying something positive or negative, right? They're not that good, so in this case I didn't check it. Or are they asking a question? And it sort of looks at some keywords, like probably for negative it's like I hate, or some swear words or something like that. And with a question it's probably just looking for the question mark. But it allows you, if you want to narrow down a little bit more the search terms that you want. And then you'll get an email as often as you want it. So in this case I've set it for every hour, because Twitter is like that. Twitter is ambient, it's quick, it's, but I also filter those emails. They're not something that come into my inbox, also very important. So the reality is if you're comfortable with RSS, You don't want to be on Twitter to engage, but you want to see what people are talking about there. You want to see what's trending. You don't have to be on the service in order to get information from it. And you can get it in the way that you're most comfortable with, whether it's RSS or email. And those things are important to know. I'm going through this stuff quickly. Any questions about alerts, email, Twitter so far? Useful? Kinda? Okay. The stuff that you want to look at with these things is, if you're looking at professional development and that kind of stuff, is use the keywords that make sense for the information you want to look for, right? This is a broad approach, but you can use it for either information about your work or information about how to do your work, and that's what's useful in these services, because people are talking about or sharing information about those kinds of things. Now, the next way to look at things is these first ones are shotgun effects, right? Twitter and Google Alerts. You're just sort of putting it out there and hoping that people you don't know are talking about things that are of interest to you and you might be able to learn something from. But you might not want to do that. You might want to start from the premise of this trusted network kind of idea. You know people are on Twitter, you know groups are on Facebook, you know there are some useful discussions on LinkedIn or on other social networking sites, so you find them and you join them, right? Trusted networks are people who you already might know or have a shared interest, so you're filtering down by that immediately. So you're not just doing that kind of Google Alert shotgun. You're starting from the point of these people have an interest in what I have an interest in, so I'm going to join them, right? Going back to that, what would you do if the internet didn't exist? You'd start with networks of people you might already know, and they might lead you to other people. So in your network, I did some quick searching. Alpha Plus has a Facebook group. They also run in Toronto a Tech Tuesday thing where you can get physically together once a month to talk about technology issues in the adult and basic education and literacy community. So whether it's online or offline. And part of that, they have an online discussion board as well. So these are places where you can start and meet other people who are interested in similar types of work. BC Literacy has started a social networking group where basically people who are doing work in British Columbia can come together online and talk about the work that they do and how they do it. This is on a site called ning.com, Ning.com. It used to be free, but now it charges a small monthly fee. But what it allows you to do is essentially set up your own mini Facebook group, your own intranet, if you will, and you can make it as public or private as you want. So in a case like this, I can get to the homepage of this and see all the stuff that's going on. But the moment I click on a sublink here, I have to register. I have to sign up for the site. And I haven't done it yet, so I don't know what they've decided on, but they can make it a moderated sign-up or an unmoderated, meaning anyone can join or only people they approve can join. So you have various levels of ability to interact with each other. And this is a great example of, British Columbia is a huge geographic province. People maybe get together face-to-face once a year, or they come to a national conference like this. This is a great way for them to stay in touch with each other, share resources, upload videos, have different groups. For example, I didn't catch down at the bottom, but if you see in the top navigation it says groups, you can create subgroups of interest or geography or whatever you want where people can continue to have conversations with each other together. So something like this, thank you, is a network that allows you to come and be with people who you already know have an interest or expertise in your area and stay focused that way. So it allows you to build networks, to share information, to harness your professional development. The nice thing about it is that if it doesn't already exist, it can be created. It can be created actually more simply than you might think. You can even just use a private LinkedIn group or a private Facebook group if that's where you know the people you're trying to reach are. Another thing is the idea of trusted networks around online stuff. So Alpha Plus has a web index, which they've moved into a social bookmarking site called Delicious. Are people familiar with social bookmarks? Okay, great. Social bookmarks are incredibly useful and important. And again, if I know that Alpha Plus's index exists, I can subscribe to their RSS feed. So anytime Alpha Plus adds something to Delicious, I'll know about it, basically, and it becomes a resource. They've created pathfinders. There's this lifelong learning for literacy practitioners. There's these sites where you can go, and it cuts down on the crap that's out on the internet because people are filtering it for you, right? So anytime you can find someone who is filtering or aggregating information that you want and need in your work, and doing it on your behalf, you can bypass the rest of the internet for that because you know that you're getting the information that you need to help you do your work. And that's the same for literacy-specific information or other kinds of professional networks and information. The other thing you can do is Google has something called Google Custom Search. Use the power of Google to search only sites that are useful. So when I worked at the Settlement at Work site, what it allows you to do is actually go in and say, I want to create a search that searches these 10, 15, 20, 100 sites and only those sites.